I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night, whether you like it or not, from 8 to 10 p.m. on Eastern Time. We look at life through a biblical lens. We probably solve all the problems we can in 2 hours or less. Have you seen any of the Sandernistas? When you look at Campaign Stop with Bernie Sanders, what are you looking at? Well, there are no older people. They're largely 20 and 30-somethings. So why are there so many younger voters enamored of this old Bernie Sanders? I mean, Bernie's older than I am. Well, the Iowa caucus, which is one of the very first in the nation, exposed this issue. Sanders won 84% of the under 30 vote. He also dominated in the 30 to 44 category with 58%. Hillary only got 37. Who are these people? Well, they're millennials. Young people who were born in the 1980s, 1990s. They're children and grandchildren of baby boomers. They are people who have been born to opulence, nurtured on permissiveness with little or no experience in the critical area of cause and effect. Are they Democrats? No. They're socialists, and they're proud of it. They're called Sandernistas, and they outnumber Hillary supporters 6-1 in the polls. Former Professor Mark Paston, writing in the Weekly Standard, says, quote, "The most compelling explanation for young Democrats' overwhelming preference for Sanders is that young voters actually like the idea of a socialist revolution." End of quote. I say, why not? They've been raised on the Great Society with a host of means-tested social programs, socialized health care, subsidized college loan, paid job training, government program for just about anything you can think of. They know nothing of self-sufficiency or what we used to call the Protestant work ethic. In short, they're socialists. They're not capitalists at all. Well, where did they come from? They came from homes in which parents left the nurturing and the educating of their children to the state. Homes where they were indoctrinated by a federal education system, by a vulgar media, and by limitless contact to internet. Homes devoid of the basic rigors of life. Things like being accountable for their actions. Things like having to be a contributing member of the family. Like having responsibility to take care of the cat, or cut the grass, or do laundry. Like learning the difficult lessons of cause and effect, both good and bad. Like reaping what you sow. Fully half our population is unfamiliar with any of these principles. They've grown up being 2-year-olds, the center of attention, coddled, responsible for nothing, expecting everything to be handed to them. And we wonder why Bernie's socialism is so attractive. Does it matter? Probably not. The days of seeing clearly the philosophical dangers in the various progressive policies is long gone. There are very few today who care, much less understand, what German nationalism or Marxist communism was all about, let alone the social seed from which they all sprang. These young people are rallying around a man who seems to know what he's doing and what his ideals and his policies can effect. This is attractive. This is powerful because it means somebody is going to do something. Not me, but somebody. The fact that he's never made any progress with this philosophy over the last 25 or 30 years, or that these ideas have never worked in any country at any time they've ever been tried, doesn't seem to occur to them. You see, they have no historical context. And you can thank our federal indoctrination system for that. We used to call it the public school. None of these young people have thought about where any of this is going to take them. They aren't able to succeed in this social economic environment, so what do they have to lose? Bernie's an old man. He's been through it all. Surely he knows the way, and all we have to do is follow. Have you seen the man on the street interviews? Have you seen it when they go up to college students on college campuses and ask them anything about U.S. history? Do you hear the crickets chirping? Why is America here? Upon what was it founded? Why? How does the system work? Why does it work that way? Who's the vice president of the country? None of this stuff matters. You see, if it did, the schools would teach it, and our young people would know it. They know who Taylor Swift is. They know Justin Bieber. How about Florida or Maroon 5? I just threw them in to show you that I'm hip. I'm down with it. We're watching our country, our culture, our world slip off the edge into oblivion. There's no net. If there were something better, threatening to replace it, that'd be something we could talk about. But this thing is clearly destructive in a way that makes it hard to imagine how we would ever recover. That so many younger people are enthralled by this thing is truly scary. The communists for decades loved to tell us that they were going to conquer us without ever firing a shot. Who knew they were so smart? When the last bastion of Western civilization falls, what's left? The question here is why? Why do rational human beings fall for this kind of thing? And the answer? Because they're sinners at heart. Sin is all about selfism. And what's more selfist than a government that takes care of everybody, cradle to grave? What's more selfist than a population that thinks this is their right? And what's more foolish than to think somebody else is going to pay for all this? We're working with 5 generations of Americans who have never worked a day in their life, a significant number who have had everything handed to them from cradle to grave, a narcissistic political machine bragging that if you elect us, all your needs will be taken care of, unlike those stingy, self-centered, power-hungry capitalists. Does this kind of thing work? No. Not today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. It's never worked. It's never worked the way the advocates promised. So why don't Americans get it? Because we don't want to. Sandernistas don't read the news. Sandernistas don't study history. Sandernistas don't know anything about economic principle. Here's a question. When the taxpayers are no longer able to pay taxes, what will happen to Sandernistas? Today, only 50% of Americans actually pay taxes. The top 10% account for 60 to 65% of all taxes paid. Americans have to earn over $100,000 to pay federal income tax, other than Social Security and the things, sales tax, things embedded in the things you purchase. The Social Security tax is going to get paid back to you. It's an insurance program for the future. Amen? No. You pay into the Social Security system, and over the first 4 or 5 years of eligibility, you will get your money back. After that, you're working off of somebody else's money. And since you can go out at 62, 65, and the life expectation is up in the 70s and 80s, you're eating up a lot of profit here. Medicare, Social Security are both broke. They're paying out more than they can take in every year. And these 2 items represent about half the budget. Military is another third. Between the three of them, there's only about, I think, 20% of the budget left that they can move around. There are 60 million Americans either retired or disabled. 160 million Americans receiving some form of benefits, not including Social Security. 160, that's about half. And none of this factors in our so-called immigrants. It doesn't consider the country squashing industrial business, oil industry, and anything else that they consider dirty is effectively shooting themselves in the foot. A country with no border control is asking to be taken over. A country purposing to destroy education is already dying. A country eliminating biblical Christianity, which is to say basic morality, eliminating its military, is deliberately destroying its currency, is a country that's suicidal. And these Sandernistas don't get it. Why? Because Bernie and his crowd don't get it. They're not stupid, but they are foolish. They want something no society can give them without destroying itself. And socialism tolerates no dissenting opinions. Socialist societies are not open societies. Socialists not only are not open, they're repressive. And their system is doomed. It will not change without war. But the Sandernistas don't know any of that. And they don't care. They simply want the pie in the sky Bernie's selling them. And they want it now. They deserve it.